Shalom, shalom, shalom. I'm Judah Moshe ben Israel, and this message to whom it may concern. Kind of mainly want to talk to the people in the churches today that's involved in various religions. You're about to hear some things that, of course, you've never heard because these type of things are not being shared in the church today. Also, for people who like history, this, of course, will be a great video for you as well to watch. Now, I want to start with a book that I have here. It's called Black Indians. Okay, and as you see, the brother right here, he kind of reminds me of Pharrell, you know, the rapper, entertainer. And this guy right here kind of reminds me of a younger Danny Glover, so to speak. Now, this is what the so-called North American Indians look like. The native people of the land. I don't know if you ever see that. Yeah. All right, you can see the sister right here with her fringes, of course, as the Bible speaks of in Numbers 15, verse 37 through 40, Deuteronomy 22 and 12. But this is basically what the so-called North American Indians look like. Also, I want to go to page 16, as you can see. You know, kind of idea of what the native people of the land look like before the coming of the man who we know as Christopher Columbus. Also, we go to page 133 before I, kind of start going into a little bit of the history. Look at this brother here. Look like one of your granddaddies. See that? Let's go to page 155 as well. Another one I want to kind of take a look at. Bottom of page 155. Again, this is what the so-called North American Indians look like, okay, before the coming of the so-called white man. Now on page 238, okay, and there's plenty of pictures in here, all right, but there are, just a few that I want to share with the audience that is watching this. Look at this brother here. Look at this brother here. See that? This is what the native people of the land look like, all right. Also, you have the entertainer by the name of LL Cool J, of course, who knows who he is and also has the book. All right, I don't know if you're able to see that. Yeah, see you holding that book in his hand, LL Cool J. See that? Now, there's a few things here I want to read. On page 32, the first thing I want to touch bases on. All right, and watch the video with open mind. And I'm about to read here, the bottom right there. Okay. It says, when captured, Native American resistant leaders were ceremonially put to death. All right. It says in the year 1512, Halte, a Taino who fought the invaders in Hispaniola and Cuba, was captured and was asked him by a priest if he first wanted to accept baptism so he could enter heaven and meet God. No, he answered. I would only find more Christians there. And I found that to be, definitely funny, because when you look at the so-called religion today that we embrace today as Christianity, and many of you all, of course, not going to want to hear this, but hey, the truth has to come out. We know that was a religion that was forced on our oppressors. Forced on us by our oppressors. The Christian religion started in 325 AD at the Council of Nicaea. However, the Bible that we believe in, notice I say we, I don't consider myself to be a follower of Christianity, but I do follow the Bible. It's a difference. And if you all, of course, study the Bible, you already know the difference. And we're actually kind of going to get into some of the differences today. But anyway, page 27, it says, and it starts off with saying it began with Columbus. Okay. It says, for the people of the Americas, the arrival of Columbus was hardly a blessing. On his first day, October 12, 1492, the explorer wrote in his diary, I took some of the natives by force. See that? So how can he discover a land that was already here to begin with? But it says, he later found the original inhabitants to be traceable, peaceable. This is what he's saying about the people whom he came and conquered. It says, and concluded, there is not in the world a better nation. This is what he wrote in his diary. His response as a European was to say that Indians must be made to work. That's what he said. It says, and adopt our ways. And adopt our ways. It says, the Christopher Columbus, whose unique seamanship and courage had opened the Americas to European penetration, also began the transatlantic slave trade. He started by shipping 10 chain Arabic men and women to Seville, Spain. So a lot of our people are also in Spain as well. Okay, another thing I want to touch bases on. Again, before I do, remember this is what the so-called native people look like. So keep this in mind throughout the course of this video. Okay, so another book I have right here is called, you see that? Africa's Gift to America. It's by J.A. Rogers. All right. And on page 29, it says, the Spaniards consider Indians just one step above the beast. Just one step above the beast. And again, you see this is what the native people look like. Okay. Before the coming of Columbus. Notice I said before. Okay. The Spaniards consider Indians, or so-called Indians, just one step above the beast. They call them gente sin razón, finding them unwilling and useless laborers. It says massacred them and fed their flesh to dogs. Then it says Lascas's account of this one of the most horrifying of all documents on man's inhumanity to man. It says they even sent Indians to be sold in Europe. It says Columbus himself took 400 for sale there in year 1498. The early American whites were almost as cruel. Connecticut whites massacred the Pequot Indians. Infants were torn from their mother's breasts. So they were torn from their mother's breast and hacked to pieces. The heads of the parents were chopped off. And kicked about in the streets. So they were kicking it like a kickball or a soccer ball. The heads of the parents. Then it says, Governor Bradford wrote, it was a fearful sight to see them frying in the fire, and the streams of blood quenching the same, and terrible was the stink and stench thereof. But the victory seemed a sweet sacrifice, and they, meaning the whites, gave praise thereof to God, or their God. So this is where your thanksgiving comes from. So here it is. You so-called Negroes, of course, who are celebrating Thanksgiving, have no idea that what you're partaking in. All right. I mentioned on my status that if I made a national holiday called National Abortion Day, would you celebrate it? Honestly, would you celebrate it? Right? No. Why wouldn't you celebrate it? Because it's the occasion will be to celebrate the deaths of many innocent babies. All right. And believe it or not, the same thing happened when a lot of the so-called Native American Indians, of course, were being put to death. They didn't do nothing to deserve that. Do you know that the so-called North American Indians call Thanksgiving a national day of mourning? It's a day of mourning for them. Are they going to be partaking in that? No. And believe it or not, many of you so-called African Americans are descendants. You're descendants of these people. Okay. Now, on page 33, all right, page 33, Pilgrims as drunks and sodomites. It says, even the early pilgrims of New England, though a very pious or were forced to appear so, weren't all the hard-working and very desirable characters we've been led to believe. It says, Governor Bradford, writing in 1642 of the severity of punishments in his colony, and said, Yet all this could not suppress the breaking out of sundry notorious sin, especially drunkenness and uncleanliness, not only to incontinence between persons unmarried, for which many, both men and women, have punished sharply, but some married persons, but that which is even worse, sodomy. So many of the so-called these pilgrims that came over here were homosexuals and drunks. See that? And this is before the so-called white women came over here. They came over here and did these horrible things to the so-called North American Indians. Now, this book right here is called Lost Tribes and Promised Lands by Ronald Sanders. Okay, and this is definitely a hard book to get your hands on. I do understand that the book is expensive. You can also download on PDF, I think. All right, now on page 327, it says the natives there have more land than they can use. And this is what the so-called white man is saying. That the so-called North American Indians, of course, who look like this, he said they got more land than they can use. Now think about that. Now, how wicked is that? All right, it says, so some of its ties follow. The utopians permit these natives to live in the colony if they wish. How are they going to come over here and say, oh, yeah, I can come over here and live and stay here if you want to? What do you mean? It's their land. You see that? Then it says, since the acceptance of the utopian laws and customs means that they're easily assimilated, which benefits both peoples. All right, but I'm going to jump down. It says all natives, talking about the people who look like this, all natives who refuse to live under utopian laws are driven out of the colony, and war is waged on the natives who resist. So you see that? They want to go against it. War was raised upon them. It says utopians regard a war as just as it is waged to out a people who refuse to allow vacant land to be used according to the very law of nature. All right, I want to turn to page 329. It says, it did this ideal no harm that in the fall and winter of year 1633 and 1634, a smallpox plague raged among the Indians of New England. So you see that they brought this over here. Then it says, for the bacteria brought to America by the Europeans were often even deadlier than their guns. So the disease that they brought over here was more deadlier than the guns. Imagine that. It says, and cleared the land several thousand more of its original population. Think about this for a second. Now also, there's so much in this book. I want to turn to page 364 as well. Okay. For time's sake, I had to jump right into it. Basically, Montesinos came over, and he knew he was an Israelite as well that came from Europe. But anyway, this is what he said. He says, now basically he was going to look for the native people of this land, whom he figured out that they were Hebrews or Israelites. It says, waving a banner high in the air, the Indian guide soon was greeted by a puff of smoke far beyond the other bank of the river. In his response to his signal, the two men waited. Eventually, a canoe appeared bearing 3 men and a woman, all of them Indians, the so-called Indians. Now, remember, they look like this. It says, to the place where Francisco and Montesinos were standing at the water's edge, the woman got off and spoke to Francisco in an Indian tongue or language that Montesinos could not understand, although he could perceive that he was being identified in the conversation. So it's kind of like a group of people that get to talking about you in a language you don't understand, but you know they're talking about you. This is what's going on. It says, she then turned to her male companions, because remember, it was 3 of them that came over there, 3 of them, to explain the situation. Upon hearing her words, they rose and went over to Montesinos, and to his utter astonishment said, Shema Yisrael Adonai Elonahu Adonai Echad, which means, hear, O Israel, the Lord our God is one Lord, or one, which was quoting Deuteronomy 6 in verse 4. That's what they were saying. But it said, they had recited in Hebrew the fundamental credo of Judaism, or what they call Judaism. All right. But anyway, I want to jump down to the point for time's sake. It said, now this is what the North American Indians said, the so-called. They told him that they themselves were of the tribe of Reuben, and that the tribe of Joseph lived on an island nearby. What does that mean? The tribe of Reuben and the tribe of Joseph. These are Hebrews. They were telling them that we are the 12 tribes of Israel. They knew this. All right. Now, one may say, oh, well, you know, I don't know about that. Got a question for you then. All right. Check this out on page 216. Matter of fact, yeah, page 216. All right. Page 216. This is the book Fossilized Customs. All right. Many of you are already familiar with the book. This is what I'm about to read from right here. Okay. Now, check this out. The Los Lunas Covenant Stone. You can look that up. Anyway, it says the photograph at the bottom of this page shows the 10 Commandments written in Paleo Hebrew. It's the ancient Hebrew, written on a large stone found in the 1800s. Los Lunas, Los is L-O-S, Lunas, L-U-N-A-S. So you can look at the Los Lunas Covenant Stone. Los Lunas, New Mexico, near the Rio Grande. This stone carving could be 3,000 years old, and it contains the name of Yahuwah or Yahweh. It says, it was written in obedience to Deuteronomy chapter 6. Now remember, they were quoting Deuteronomy 6 here. All right, it says, as we were with them, our doorposts on our gates. It says, the stone was at the entrance to the ancient colonies or settlement of the Israelites that have navigated up the Rio Grande. So these people were Hebrews. They were Israelites. It says, the style of the letter Yod, which is a Hebrew letter, Yod, used on the stone indicates that the Israelites of the 10 tribes, the 10 northern tribes, were in North America. So they're saying that the Israelites of the 10 northern tribes were here in North America. All right, you have the Apocrypha. You can read 2nd Ezra, the 13th chapter. All right, I believe it's verse 42 on down, which Christopher Columbus said how he found out where America was by reading the Apocrypha. Okay, so just to make sure, 2nd Ezra 13, yeah, verse 40 through 44. All right, but anyway, yeah, so that's what I wanted to touch bases on. It says it could have been inscribed on this stone as early as the 9th century BCE. What did they say before Common Era? During the reign of King Solomon, or as late as 146 BC, when the Israelites were conquered by Rome. So again, you can see right here in the stone right there. This is a stone that they found in Paleo Hebrew. They spoke Hebrew and they wrote Hebrew. Two different sources. We got an artifact and we also have pictures showing the same thing. But the reason why I wanted to bring this out is because you so-called Christians who are partaking in Thanksgiving, you're celebrating the massacre, all right, of who might be your ancestors, all right. The so-called North American Indians, they every year they go putting tickets on people's cars every year, and they say basically you're in violation of stolen land, stolen property. So one may say that was back then, but guess what? They're still reaping the benefits of stolen land. And keep in mind, they brought many of us over here on cargo slave ships. All right, now ask yourself, if there was a holiday called National Abortion Day, would you partake in that? If the answer is no, then you have to say no to Thanksgiving. I mean, it don't take much research. Just look it up. Pagan origins of Thanksgiving, if you don't feel like reading. Pagan origins of Thanksgiving. Go on YouTube. Go on Google. Look this information up. Get the book Fossilized Customs. Get these books. Okay, but understand that Thanksgiving or Thanksgiving, it's a pagan holiday. All right? You're not going to celebrate it unless you are a pagan. Period. The Most High gave us holy days, not holidays. There's a difference. Holy, holly. He gave us holidays. He gave us holy days, not holidays. So again, ladies and gentlemen, I kind of want to just plant a seed to those who had ears to hear, but you can definitely look this up. Pagan origins of Thanksgiving. Ladies and gentlemen, Judah Moshe ben Israel. Shalom.